Ustalmy Jedno, świat, Kamil Turecki. Witam Państwa. To wydanie specjalne z Bratysławy Global Security Forum 2016, czyli konferencja poświęcona bezpieczeństwu międzynarodowemu. Setki prelegentów, a wśród nich m.in. dziennikarz związany m.in. z rosyjskimi mediami, Konstantin von Eggert. Welcome to Bratislava. It's great to have you here.
Dzień dobry, hello.
Is Germany the quiet ally of Russia?
I think that there's definitely a very strong undercurrent of sympathy for Russia, and this unfortunately stretches to sympathy for certain policies of the Putin regime. I think that to a large extent we've seen in the last 2 years that Chancellor Merkel has been very firm, but lots of people, even in the German government, are not that firm with regard to Russia's policy and to what the Russian regime does in its immediate environment and probably even beyond if you're talking about Syria. Let's take Frank-Walter Steinmeier, who just a few days ago said that no international conflict can be solved without Russia. I mean, a lot of these conflicts were created by Russia. So in a sense, I think we do have a very strong current in German policy, which goes back to the old sort of Bismarckian model of Moscow-Berlin
Yes.
axis. No one likes the word, but still, basically dividing up Europe. And I suppose that if Chancellor Merkel goes, then we might have a completely different sort of situation in which probably some of the Russian interests will be promoted even better.
Different situation? What one? Which one?
Well, look, a lot depends on the leadership, and I think that the current chancellor has proven to be a very firm believer in containing certain impulses coming out from Moscow. We don't know what's going to happen if and when, and eventually it will happen, of course.
Yes.
Things in Germany change. We should look forward to what will be happening during the elections next year. And I suppose that quite a lot will depend on that.
So what's your evaluation of GlobSec conference this year? It seems to me some countries, especially Czech Republic, Slovak, just yesterday talked, well, let's turn to Russia a bit. They are our strategic partner. What's your evaluation of that?
Well, I think that
Is it something new?
it is not a new trend in many ways, but every time one sees it, one hears things like that, things that can't be coming out of Central Europe. You have an experience. I think that the ultimate thing that needs to be understood is that whenever we talk in these current circumstances about some kind of partnership with Moscow, you're talking about a partnership with a political regime that is pretty oppressive towards its own people, towards political opposition, Russia, which does not allow dissent, which is ruling over a country in a pretty much imperial manner, and which created quite a lot of crisis, which actually also rebound back into Russia in terms of economic hardship, instability, and things like that. So, I mean, if you want to promote that, then it's fine. You can of course say that it's business as usual, but I think that'd be a strategic mistake, and also from the point of view of Russian own interest.
How should we treat? Well, Polish Minister of Defense Antoni Macierewicz said that the Russian Su-24 actions on Baltics were provocation. How should we treat that?
Well, I'm very worried about the situation in which these kind of buzzing of the ships and probably some reciprocal action.
But it is from both sides.
It could lead to an accident to which both sides will have to react. And we are talking about NATO-Russia border. So this is quite dangerous, and I think that I actually hope that NATO-Russia interaction in the coming weeks will probably lead to some kind of decision to reinstall or, let's say, refresh, remember the protocols that exist from quite a long time ago, and seize this kind of dangerous activity, because I think the accidents that could happen in these circumstances are extremely dangerous. This is something that we need to take on board, and we need to basically deal with pretty urgent.
Are we well prepared to answer?
I don't know. I mean, it's for NATO countries to decide, but I think that...
Is it a matter of decision?
I think to a large extent it's a matter of political will to look at what happens and say, look, that can't go on. During Cold War, and I think you have this recurring theme in the last, say, year or so, lots of people who remember Cold War say, well, it was better at the time in certain ways because at least there were certain predictable lines, red lines, which after the Cuban Missile Crisis, no one wanted to cross. And I think that these lines are quite blurred. And I suppose this is extremely dangerous. If you can go back, at least to the kind of Cold War clarity about prevention of incidents, it would be already a step forward.
And what's the role of Poland in this whole mess, in this chaos?
I think the role of Poland is extremely important. It's a key NATO ally. It's a country that has a strategic position in Central Europe. I think it's also a country towards which Russia looks because, well, opinions coming out of Warsaw are important. I suppose that certain things that have been happening recently in Polish politics attract a lot of attention, let's put it like that. But I suppose that in the end, Poland is one of those countries that to a large extent has spoken to, on behalf of this kind of Central European Baltic bloc, quite frequently in NATO and in the EU. I think that this role has been slightly diminished since the beginning of the Ukraine crisis because you see the Slovaks are saying something else, and then the Czechs are saying something else. And inside the Czech Republic, there is also a split, obviously, between the president and the government. And Hungary has been courting the Kremlin pretty actively, I would say. So yeah, I mean, the question is actually, is there a Visegrad group as we knew it before, or it's become something else?
Okay, thank you very much for the interview. W tym miejscu stawiamy kropkę. To było wydanie specjalne programu Ustalmy Jedno, świat z Bratysławy, z konferencji Globsec 2016. Naszym gościem był Konstantin von Eggert, dziennikarz związany m.in. z rosyjskimi mediami. Ja się nazywam Kamil Turecki. Kłaniam się Państwu i do zobaczenia.